So welcome back, coders. Never give up coding. Continue coding. So in this tutorial, we're going to talk about React, but JSX. JSX. So it is spelled like this. It is JSX. JSX. It allows us to write HTML code in React. So when you see some HTML code being put in React or being mixed with JavaScript, that is what we call JSX, and it stands for JavaScript XCML. So it stands for JavaScript XCML. If you know some XCML, it follows also some rules of XCML. Now what JSX does, it makes it easier to write and add HTML in React. That's what JSX does. So now let's JSX will allow us to write HTML elements in JavaScript and place them in the DOM without any, maybe previously would have to use a create element function or an append child method or function. But JSX converts the HTML tags into React elements. Now, you are not required to use JSX. It's not a must that you should use JSX when you're dealing with your HTML, when you're dealing with React. But JSX makes it easier to code in React. So now let's do some examples of JSX. So you can come here and delete everything here. Delete. Then we can create an element. So I'm going to call it const. I want to make a variable called constant variable. I'm going to name it my element using camel case. And then in it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a h1 tag, close h1 tag, and I can terminate here. And the h1 tag, I'm going to put I love JSX. Now here, remember in the previous video we used React DOM, but you can come here and put /client in small letters, /client. So now I have created my element. Now this is what we call JSX. When I mix some JavaScript with some HTML, that's what we call JSX. Then remember in the previous way, there was the redacted way of pushing my element onto the DOM. But the new way of pushing my element into the DOM, I'll first have to create a variable root, and then in the variable root, I'll call React DOM.create root. Then in my create root, I'm going to get my root or my root element where I want them to push the React code into, and then I'm going to get it by ID. So I'll say document dot get element by ID. Then the element by ID I'm going to get is root. So then after that, I'm going to call root.render. Then I want the root to render my element. So I can save. So when I go back to, I should say that everything is working and I love JSX has been put onto our web page. So this is how you use JSX. But remember, as I said previously, normally it's not a must that you should use JSX. You could use an older way of defining React elements without using JSX. So what you could do, instead of doing this, I could come here and then I say React dot. I could put React dot create element to create an element, and then this is what I would pass into the React dot create element. I would pass in the tag is curly braces, and I do not use JSX. So I can save this and then we can check on our browser if everything is working, and you can see I do not use JSX has been put onto the screen. So as you saw in the first example, JSX allows us to write HTML directly within the JavaScript code. But JSX is an extension of the JavaScript language, and it is based on ES6 and is translated into regular JavaScript at runtime. So at runtime, that's when it's translated into regular JavaScript. Now let's talk about some expressions in JSX. Now with JSX, you can write expressions expressions in what? In curly braces. So I can do my Control Z and then come back with my JSX here. So let's assume, let me write here some code. If you know some programming, you know what an expression is. An expression is like, if I want to do 5 plus 6, that's like an expression. So let's say I have React is, then I open my curly braces, then I say 5 plus 5 times better, 5 plus 5 times better with JSX. That's what I have. React is 5 plus 5 times better than JSX. Now, in JSX, if I'm like writing an HTML element, but in the HTML element, I want to put in some JavaScript code, what I would do, I would use these curly braces. So in these curly braces, that's where I can put in some JavaScript code, like maybe this addition which I'm trying to do. I can put it in these curly braces and it would be executed, and then the output would be inputted into my HTML element. So if I save this, I should get React is 10 times better than JSX. So let's see. You can see that I've gotten React is 10 times better than JSX. So that's how you write expressions in JSX. Now, let's look at again in JSX, inserting a larger block of HTML code. So, to write HTML on multiple lines, we put our HTML inside parentheses. What does that mean? So let's give an example. Maybe I have a list that I want to push out, a list of something. Now, I cannot write here line by line and then I continue going forward this side until when I want to move between my code, I have to use the horizontal bar down here to move between my code. So what I can do, I can use my brackets here. Then in the brackets, inside the brackets, that's where I can put my code. Like for example, if I wanted to push out a list, maybe of fruits. So let's say the list of fruits here, tab. So this is the list of fruits I wanted to push out. So in JSX, it is allowed to use these parentheses. You open them and inside the parentheses, you can put in your code. So if I save this and then I come back here, you can see that my list of fruits has been put onto the web page. So now, we're going to talk about on top level elements. Now, the HTML code must be wrapped in one top level element. It means that when there should be one top level element here, like UL. But if I left, for example, I delete my UL here like this, I'm going to get an error. I come back here, you can see that I've gotten an error. And if you read the error, what does the error say? Adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. So JSX, when you're pushing JSX, there should be one enclosing tag enclosing all the rest of the elements. So you cannot have many tags. So you should have only one enclosing tag enclosing the rest of the elements. So for example, if let's say I have this element, paragraphs. If I remove these divs, this one enclosing element enclosing the rest of the elements, I would still get the same error. But if I put back my divs and then I save my code and I come back here and see, you can see that the code is working well. So in JSX, what you can do, you can either unwrap everything in a div, but if you don't want to continuously create new nodes, what you can do, you can unwrap everything in, just open anchor brackets like this, and then at the end, you close anchor brackets like this. So that this can also work fine in JSX. You can see that I've gotten no error. So this is the way of enclosing the elements into one wrap. So if you don't want to create multiple divs every time you're pushing an element, what you can do, you can just use this format of how to enclose the rest of the elements so as not to get an error. Now, in JSX, all elements must be closed. So what JSX does, it follows XML rules and therefore elements must be properly closed. So for example, let's give this example. If I have my element here, and then let's give the example, the element is an input tag. Let's say copy. Let's paste it here. The element is an input tag. What it means that all elements must be closed, it means that this closing tag should be on all elements. If it's not there, then I run, I should get an error. You can see I'm getting an error. Unterminated JSX content, which means that it's telling us that all this JSX code must be terminated or closed. That's what that means. Now, when we come in JSX and maybe we want to do classes, remember in HTML code we have classes. In HTML code, for example, I could have my div and then I could give it a class so that it can be called by, let's say, I can give it a class hen or something like that so that it can be called in CSS. Now in JSX this is not possible because in JavaScript class is a keyword. Class is used for defining for defining classes or objects, so you cannot use class. So the way JSX has made it possible for us to define what a class name is, for example, let's give that we have a h1, and in the h1, maybe in the h1 there is hello world. That's what's in the h1. So let's see. Yeah, the problem is here. Terminated wrongly. Let's save and then let's see if the thing is going to push it out. You can see it has pushed out hello world. Now, what if I wanted to give this h1 a class? Previously in JavaScript, I would use class is equal to, then maybe the name I want to put, maybe the name is hen. That's the name of the class that has been defined in the CSS file. But in JSX, if we want to define a class, we put class and then we put name. This is to define a class, and then we can give the class name maybe my class. So this is how you define classes in JSX. You don't use class, you use class, you use class name. Now in JSX, let's talk about conditions or if statements. How does conditions or if statements work in JSX? Now React supports if statements, but it does not support it inside JSX. Now to be able to use conditional statements in JSX, you should put the if statements outside the JSX, or you could use a ternary operator instead. If you know what ES6 is, I have a tutorial about playlist about ES6. You can follow it before you continue further, because mostly in React we are going to be using some ES6. So let's use the option 1. What if I want to write if statements outside the code of JSX to do something? So we can delete this. No, let's not delete it. Let's just go up. Then up here you can say, let's have a constant. X is equal to 5. And then let's say the text, let text equal to maybe goodbye. And then we are going to say, if x is less than 10, if x is less than 10, what we can do, we can say let the text equal to hello. That is, if x is less than 10. Since x is less than 10, the text is going to be hello. Now, here we are going to have, let's delete the class name here. And then we delete that. Now in JSX, if I wanted to put this variable into this HTML element, what I would do, I would open my curly brackets, because the variable is some JavaScript. And remember, in React, if I want to put JavaScript into HTML, I need to use curly brackets. Then in the curly brackets, I would put text. Then I would save. So when I come back here to look at the web page, you can see that hello has been printed out. The reason why hello has been printed is because x is less than 10. But if I make x as 11 and then I come back here, you can see goodbye has been put onto the screen. Goodbye has been made into text. So this is the way you could use if statements and play around with some JSX. But instead, what you could do, we could use the ternary operator. So how would we use the ternary operator? So you can delete this, and then you can make your x equal to, let's say let my x equal to 5. And then inside here, I will delete this. Let me delete everything. Now, the ternary operator is a JavaScript object, but I want to put it inside some HTML. Now to put it inside some HTML, what I would do, I would open my curly brackets because I'm going to put JavaScript into HTML. And then I would open some brackets, then I would put X. Then after X, I would say less than 10. So that is like if X is less than 10 or if X less than 10 returns true, then I would put a question mark. Now the first one comes here. If it returns true, what I want to do is pull out hello. Or if it returns false, what I want to do is pull out goodbye. Then I can save. Then I can come back here. I can see hello has been returned. The reason why hello has been returned, 5 is actually less than 10. So this would pull out true. And since it's true, hello would be pushed out. But if it had returned false, goodbye would be pushed out. So to make X less than 10 equal to false, what I would do, I'd put here 11. And then I would come back here. And then you can see that goodbye has been now pushed out. So that is React JSX. So that's how JSX we shall use it. So these are the different ways of using JSX. So what you have learned is how to do conditions or if statements with the help of JSX. You have seen how some attributes or these class names are defined differently in JSX. Instead of using class, we use class name. You have also seen that elements must be closed, and you have seen how to put a lot of HTML code in JSX by using the brackets. You have seen also how to do expressions in JSX using the curly brackets, and that's what JSX is. Thank you for watching. Continue coding and never give up coding. Continue.